Hi everyone, my name is Moni.
And I'm Naveen from Before You Play.
And today we're going to be discussing a new deduction game by HABA called The Key.
This is just one in a series of 3 that's currently out right now. It's designed by Thomas Singh and of course published by HABA Games. And it is a investigative deduction game.
That's right. And so if you're not familiar with Thomas Singh, he was the designer of another pretty well-known trick-taking game called The Crew.
Crew, yeah.
It was a fully cooperative trick-taking game. We have a review of it on our channel as well, if you're not familiar with it, but it is a game that we both really adore. So the fact that HABA was now partnering with this designer was pretty exciting for us. Yep. And we both really enjoy deduction games. So it was kind of a no-brainer for us to try to check this out and see how it plays. So like Naveen was mentioning, there are 3 different versions of this game currently on the market, I believe, and they have different levels of difficulty. So the one that we're going to be discussing today is the Sabotage at Lucky Llama Land. And this is kind of like a starter difficulty. So this is one of the easier ones that are on the market.
And so the premise of these games is there's a crime that has been committed in a specific location. In this case, it's Lucky Llama Land, which is basically a theme park. There are 3 suspects who use 3 different types of weapons on 3 different days, and they sabotage 3 different rides. And so it's our job as the investigators to try to figure out the right combination of who did what, when, and where.
Yes. Yeah. So if you remember back in like elementary school when you had those math worksheets that are like Tom, Jill, and Adam ate 3 different apples.
Yes.
And which ones did they eat, or something like that. That's a pretty bad example, but that's a basic concept of the deduction that is used in this game. And so today we're gonna just kind of show you how it plays, give you an idea as to what to expect in the game, and then tell you what we think about it.
But before we get started, if you'd like to follow us along on other videos that we make, please consider subscribing.
And with that, I think we're ready to begin.
Sure.
So if you'd please direct your attention to the center of the table, we're all set up here technically for a 2-player game of The Key, as evidenced by our player screens, because each player has their own player screens where we're going to be taking notes. As you can see, the player screens kind of show all 3 of the different suspects that Naveen was discussing, as well as the tools or weapons that were used and the different rides that were sabotaged at Lucky Llama Land. We each also have our own book. It's kind of like an evidence manual that you can refer to when we're going through these clues. And of course, we have all of the cards that will give us clues to kind of point us in the right direction. And so for setup, all of the different cards are laid out in a circle around the table so that all players can kind of easily access them.
Yeah, you just kind of shuffle everything and kind of create this so that you can kind of see these backings with the different colors on them.
Exactly. And the reason why is because each of these cards, the colors on the cards correspond to the different keys that are in the game. And so the way that the system works is each key color corresponds to a specific case. They're all technically the same case, but each key color corresponds to a different solution.
Yes.
And that's important because, say, if we're going to be playing the green case, then you can only choose evidence cards that have at least the green color on the back. Or else the clue is not going to pertain to the right solution, right? So let's just use green as our example. And so the way that the game works is once everybody around the table is ready to begin, you're going to say, start your investigation. And then there's a real-time element because everybody's going to be reaching for these evidence cards at the same time. And you're basically just going to keep on going, grabbing these cards and taking your notes down until everybody has figured out their solution. Then that's when the game will end. At the end of this, there will be a 3-digit code that will be the solution. And the person who figured out the solution using the least amount of investigative points that are on these cards is the winner. So once the round starts, you're going to be grabbing for these cards. And these cards come in 2 main types of cards, I suppose. All the information that you need to know about the cards are listed on the back. And so if we're playing the green case, then you would only be pulling cards that have that green color square on it.
Yeah, you would not want to pull something like this because it would not pertain to this case.
And it would lead you in the wrong direction. So if I were to pull a different color instead and write those notes down behind my screen, chances are it would lead me down to the wrong solution.
You could make some big mistakes.
In addition, if you pull cards that are not part of the same color, those investigative points are still going to count towards your score at the end of the game. So you really want to be careful about pulling the proper cards. So there are 2 main types of cards. There are witness statements, and those are the ones with the face here at the top. And these are going to be different information that witnesses have told you about. So for example, for this card, it says the knife was not used on May 8th. And so with this information, I would then pull up my screen. I would look to the area where I would take notes for May 8th, which would be this area here, and then I would cross off the knife because I know that the knife was not used on May 8th. And so that's kind of the deduction that you're going to be using throughout the game. There are also 3 different types of lab cards that are more like physical evidence. And so one example are snapshots, and it'll have like a photograph at the top here, because on the opposite side, it'll show a picture point plus an additional piece of information. So in this example, this is a snapshot of an area of the park that shows the knife. And so you know that the knife was used in that area. So at that point, you would pull out your manual and you would reference the map and kind of look for where this photo was possibly taken. So it looks like...
So there's a big Ferris wheel.
Yep.
There's a green guy with sunglasses. So I'm looking at this area right here.
Yeah, and there are symbols on the map that show where photographs are taken.
Yep.
So maybe it looks like it was over there.
Or actually maybe over here, because of this angle, you can see part of this Ferris wheel and the green guy up there.
Yes, actually you're right. So then it seems like the knife was used at the roller coaster. So if you know of a date on your mat where the roller coaster was sabotaged, then you know that the knife was used there. So that's just an example. That's a snapshot. Another type of clue is a show ticket. And so show tickets have the ticket at the top, and it'll be like fragments of 3 different shows that this person was seen at.
So those fragments of tickets will show you when all these different shows were taking place. So you have to kind of cross-reference and see, okay, well, this pirate show was not on May 8th. So then that means, okay, she definitely went to the pirate show.
Yes.
So I can definitely say it was not on that date that she sabotaged.
So, and then the final type of lab card evidence is the shoe print. Probably the most frustrating one for me and for you, right? Because you flip it over and it'll show you 3 different types of shoe prints that they found at a location. And then you have to take the mirror and you have to mirror the image. And again, you reference the manual, because the manual shows the different types of footprints that relate to the 3 perpetrators. And 2 of them are going to be slightly inaccurate. So you have to look for the one that is an exact match. And that person is a perpetrator at that location.
Right.
So those are all the different types of evidence that you'll find. And again, once you have completely figured out the solution for all 3 dates, then if you're the first person to do it, you grab the key in the center here, because you'll get a benefit if you're correct. But you must still wait for everybody to be done. Once everyone's done, then you refer to the side here of your player sheet to try to figure out what the code is, because there's going to be a certain combination that you would write down depending on the order of the answer on your sheet. So then once you have your code, you would look at the answer sheet over here, which we've completely punched so that you can't make any kind of inferences. And say I thought the answer was 251, I would put the key in there and then I would flip it over. On the opposite side of this board are different colors. And if the green color was exactly this, where I slipped the key in, then I would be correct. We're not going to flip this over just so we don't give away any of the solutions, just in case anybody out there wants to play this. And then at that point, everybody who has guessed the solution correctly adds up all of the investigative points that were on the back of all the cards that you picked up. Even if the answer was not helpful to you, or if you picked up a card that did not pertain to the specific case, you would still add up those investigative points. If you were the person who grabbed the key and you were correct, then you get to discard your lowest numbered investigative card.
Yeah, and these cards come in values of 2s, 3s, and 4s, depending on how helpful it is to solve the case.
And at that point, whoever has the least number of investigative points and the correct solution is the winner. And so that pretty much sums up how to play, I believe, all of the games in this series. And so we're going to talk about it a little bit, because the whole purpose of us kind of showing you this is so we can tell you what we think. What are your thoughts on the key?
Yeah, well, we both like deduction games, and this one was very, very clever. This one brought me back to kind of those, like you said, those childhood math problems or worksheets. I used to really enjoy those in class, or, you know, when my dad would give me one of those, and so it really scratches that itch. It is more challenging than you think. There are, even though this is the easy one, there were definitely times we played all 9 scenarios. Probably 4 or 5 of them we made mistakes, and we had to go back and try a second time in order to kind of solve the investigation. And sometimes if you go down a path and you assume information about something else, it can really throw it off. And so you kind of have to just scrap the whole thing and start over. So it becomes challenging.
The reason why I think we got some of those wrong is because we were not choosing our evidence properly. And so one thing that I didn't go over in the overview is that each type of evidence card tells you the 2 bits of information that it's going to give you. And so if there's kind of like the blacked out eyes, that's going to give you a little bit of information about the specific perpetrator. And then if there's like a crossed off X that talks about the location. And so if you are only missing a certain piece of information, then you want to look for those cards, because some cards will also only give you a specific date. Right? And so I think, especially early on, we were just kind of grabbing the cards that matched the color of our case and not like looking for the specific information that we needed.
Yeah, because that backside of the card gives you clues as to what you're investigating. So if you don't know anything about location, you're going to want to look for those cards that have that X on location and not waste points or time getting information that you already know.
Yes, exactly. And so that's part of the challenge of the game. There is that whole bit about picking up cards and not using them. So we house ruled it. It's not a part of the rules, but we house ruled it so that if you accidentally picked up a card that did not pertain to the case because it was not the right color, or if you picked up a card that gave you duplicate information that you already had, we didn't count it. So that might be something you may want to do, especially if you're playing with younger players, but that's definitely not in the rules. That is supposed to count against you, because sometimes you get evidence that leads you down the wrong direction, right? I really, 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 really enjoyed this game. This is one of those that this is probably the game that we played the most in the past month and a half.
We've done all 9.
Yeah, we did all 9.
We did all 9, yeah.
At first, I really, really liked it so much the first time we played that I wanted to do several of them in one sitting. But what I found was if we played it back to back, I would pick up cards and kind of remember what information it was giving me.
Yes.
And so the second or third time that you played in a row made the cases easier. And so after that, we decided we would only play it once in a night.
Yeah, exactly.
So we would play it before playing another game, or maybe if we just wanted something quick to play, because this plays really quickly.
It does, yeah.
Like no more than 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think we would wrap up an investigation in 10, 15 minutes.
And there's definitely that real-time element. So if anybody is kind of gets anxious with real-time games, it feels like that. Even though I just want you to know that the real-time element is not that big of a deal, because you're only really racing to be the first person to grab the key. And the only benefit of that, if you are correct, is that you can discard your lowest valued card.
Which is typically a 2.
Typically a 2. So it's only really a bonus 2 points. And so if it's going to be the difference between you making a mistake and you being in the running for solving the case, then just take your time. There's enough cards to go around. Just take your time. Just forget the real-time element and just focus on actually solving the case. Yeah,
for me, this is just one of those activities where it doesn't matter. Monique, you could win. Maybe, we count up the score and I lose by 4 points. It's no big deal. I still enjoyed my time trying to solve this and kind of tickle that brain itch of like, okay, so he was not on May 8th, but he went before the blonde woman. So, is she, on 6 or, okay, so I know a little bit of information. Now I got to go investigate a little bit more and try to figure it out. So, it's clever. It's very, very clever.
Very clever. It's really fun. It's really funny when the both of us end up with the wrong answer. Because we're like, wait, this is the starter level of the key, and neither of us have the right answer.
I think seriously, like 4 or 5 of the 9, we both had to go back to the drawing board twice.
We're not proud of it, but you really need to pull your evidence cards with purpose.
Yeah, and that time element that's there, even though we said it's not a big deal, it still creates kind of that chaos a little bit, that pressure.
Psychological pressure,
which is just the right amount, exactly what you need for a game like this. So yeah, it was really, really enjoyable. I like it.
Yeah, same here. I really fell in love with this game. I really want to try the other 2. I would probably try the starter one again, because there's another one that's a starter level, and then there's one that's medium.
Right.
But I imagine they're going to come out with more of them if there are 3 levels of difficulty, and there's no hard on the market yet.
Right.
So I really love it. There are only 9 keys, but there's no reason why you can't like replay the keys once you're done, because it's not like we're going to remember that green was 3, 2, 1 or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So totally replayable.
And so what we ended up doing, as we showed with that board, is we ended up punching all of them out afterwards, because over time, as you start seeing holes, psychologically you'll know certain things are not correct. So once we finished all 9, we decided to punch everything out, so that if we do want to go back to play it, you never know what's what.
Yes, exactly. So good job, HABA. And how cool is HABA? I really love HABA as a publisher. They make really, really, really fantastic family weight and kids games specifically, but they also work with such really good designers. And it's such a wonderful surprise to see them working with Thomas Singh. So wonderful job. Highly recommend this game. Couldn't recommend it enough. And that is The Key. Sabotage at Lucky Llama Land.
Well, thank you all so much for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, please consider subscribing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.